Thanks to the support as a channel member, Kieran Hodgkinson. Well, I think we can all agree that first season in the Premier League was a roaring success. In fact, I released a video yesterday, very much patting myself on the back for my transfers since we've been at Preston. You should check that one out if you want a real in-depth look on the thought process behind what you're about to see, because this is going to be our season review and transfer special for season 2 in the Premier League. Second season syndrome, very much a real thing that we need to be aware of. But as you can imagine, I am going to be focusing in on Wonder Kids again, because that's what we want. We want to continue bringing this flow of good young players into the club. That's providing we've got the money that's going to allow us to do it. I haven't seen the budget yet. That's why we're starting on the inbox screen, because if I go back to the home screen, I'll see the budget. I don't know what budget we've got to spend this summer. I think we had about 30 million last year, and now we're a mid-table Premier League team. I'm looking for 30 or 40 million again, and I think that could lead to a very exciting transfer special. I've just very carefully adjusted my squad plan. We'll look at this again in a moment, but I think what we all want to see is the budgets. These need to be generous, please. I mean, we'll classify that as generous, I think. A £50 million transfer budget and £1 million a week of wage budget. And that's a little bump up of our wage budget, a massive bump up of the transfer budget. £50 million to spend. We are going to have some fun this summer. This is the squad as it currently stands. So we're going to have a work out what we actually need as part of our fun. Obviously, we don't need to be replacing Zelmar Blanco. He has now graduated to be a full-on wonder kid, still only 19 years old, but he's going to be our first-choice goalkeeper until Real Madrid sign him from us at some point, because why on earth wouldn't he be? Josh Clark is fine as a backup. Kovacic is probably fine as third choice. I don't think we necessarily need to fiddle with the goalkeepers unless Clark or Kovacic decide they want to leave because they're never going to play, in which case we can just bring in another suitable backup player. But I don't think we need to do too much in terms of goalkeepers. At left back, we have quite a few of them. Valenti's not going to play there. Rule Walters is not going to play there, but we have got 3 left backs. And I think this is probably the end of the road for Thierry Small. He's probably the first victim, or one of the first victims, of us just growing too fast for him. I think when he came in, if we'd have stayed in the Championship last season, he would have been a regular starter for us week in, week out. But because he wasn't quite ready for the Premier League, we brought in Ballo-Touré last summer, who at 31, I'm not against letting leave if we get a big offer for him. But we then brought in Oscar back in January, who is better than Small and has potential to be better than Ballo-Touré. So I'm quite happy going into this upcoming season with Ballo-Touré and Oscar. I think we probably let Small go. If there's money to spare or a really good option out there, I'm happy to bring in another left back over the top of Oscar and let Ballo-Touré leave. But as it stands, I think Ballo-Touré and Oscar are fine. We're going to put Thierry Small on the transfer list, move him on to try and free up even more cash for us. And if we look at right back, de Klerk's not going to play right back. Pascozzi shouldn't. Oscar is left-footed, so probably shouldn't. And I think this is definitely an area we do need to strengthen. We've obviously got Simon Darlington, who has potential, but is now only down to 4 stars of potential. He's still only 19 years old. It's not like he's 22, 23 and starting to level out to his actual ability. At 19 years old, I kind of want him to still be showing as 5-star potential if he's actually going to make it as a starter for us. So we might need to start thinking in terms of loaning him out and maybe not relying on him as a long-term answer. But I don't think Rule Walters is the long-term answer either. So I think we probably need a right back. At centre-back, I think we're probably good. We've already got the guy coming in who we mentioned in the last episode, Americo George Frangolo. So with him coming in fact, if we add him to the shortlist, does that mean he'll appear? Oh, he's already on the shortlist. Why is he not appearing on here then? Add defenders. There we go. So we can add him in. And then I think, I don't know how Squad Planner works, but let's add him in again. Add him in and move him up the list. So, I mean, if we assume he's going to be somewhere. Okay, thank you. I'm pretty sure I've done that before. I don't know that I needed that tutorial. But we've got de Klerk. Now, remember, with de Klerk, we have the potential issue that he is refusing to sign a contract extension or even discuss it until after the Euros, and he has a minimum fee release clause at £22.5 million, a value he's pretty much at. He's a wonder kid who's off to the Euros and will probably be starting for Belgium there. So if we can't get de Klerk to sign a new deal, we might have to prepare for life without him. But even if we do, we've got Valente, we've got Burns, we've got Fragolo coming in, we've got Paskotski. I think we just don't transfer list Paskotski just yet. Go with these 5 until we know what's happening with de Klerk. And if de Klerk does commit to a new deal, we can then move Paskotski or Burns on. But for now, we go with those 5. Obviously, Walters, Darlington, Small are not going to play there, but I think we're fine at centre-back. So defensively, we're pretty good. Maybe a backup goalkeeper and probably a first-team right-back, and that's about it. Defensive midfielder, who is likely to play there? Not him. He could. Probably not him. I mean, Harvey White is obviously great. I'm not entirely sure what Harvey White's long-term position is. Probably the longer time goes on and we bring in better players further forward, the more likely Harvey White is to confirm his position at the base of the midfield. Carrasco is probably long-term going to be there as well. And we've still got Longstaff and Whiteman as older rotation options. I think probably at 31, we don't need Longstaff and Whiteman. So I think we probably at 31 and 2.5 stars, I think this is the summer Ben Whiteman moves on. He only started 12 games for us last season. They were largely in the first half of the season. So I think Whiteman is probably done. He can go on to the transfer list. And then in central midfield, we've got loads of options. I mean, if Whiteman's not going to be here, we can take him out. Woodburn and Sunjic are probably not going to play there. Chong, I've taken off by mistake. How can we add him back in? Can we add Chong back in? Chong, there he is. I mean, he's only considered 2-star, 3-star now. So Chong might be coming to the end of the road as well. But Harvey White at defensive midfield. So we've got Scott, Longstaff, Rafa, Sartori as a midfield 4. Maybe you could argue we could squeeze one more in, especially if we're losing Chong from the mix and Whiteman's leaving as well. We could probably bring in one more midfielder who could maybe cover both roles, DM and central midfield. We've got £50 million to spend. We've got to spend it somewhere. There's upgrades we can do here, I'm sure. Like Sean Longstaff might not survive the summer. And then on the right wing, obviously Russell Ross is going to maintain as our starter. 3.5 stars of current ability, 4.5 stars of potential. We definitely continue to use him. We're not going to use Chong on the right or Scott or Sato. I mean, really, we don't want to use any of these on the right. I think we probably need one more right winger in. Because a lot of those were left wingers. Sartori is going to be our starter on the left. Brobby can play out there, but he's mainly a striker. Likewise with Ida. Chong can survive for now, but will probably get replaced. And we were already offered Ben Woodburn out. He's not going to be with us too much longer. So I think probably wingers for both sides, and then we can move Chong on. Or if we decide to go for a really expensive one on the right, we can probably keep Chong as a backup to Sartori. But I think attacking players is probably where the focus needs to be. Less so up front. We've obviously got Reyes, who is a genuine wonder kid now and started to score goals for us towards the end of last season. So he's probably our starter. Ross is on the right wing, but we've got Brobby and Ida in there. Chong and Woodburn won't play up front, but we've also still got Sunjic, who at 20 still has 4.5 stars of potential. So I don't know that we necessarily need a striker. I think with those 4, we're good. There's a potential scenario where we get a big offer for Adam Ida, who did score 15 Premier League goals this season in 15 starts as well. He's started to fall off as he started to drop out of the team. Who knew? But if we were to get like a £20 million offer for Ida, we'd probably let him go and bring in another striker. Likewise, Brobby. At 26, he's only got 3-star potential. He's only got 2.5-star current ability. I'm not against Brobby and Ida leaving and then bringing in another striker, another left winger, another right winger, and an attacking central midfielder, and really focusing on the summer on firepower going forward and a right back. So there's plenty we can do. There's not a lot we need to move on, but we've got a big old budget to spend. So like I say, it's going to be fun, and it could all be turned on its head if the right wonder kid appears. If there's a real top quality centre-back wonder kid, we'll bring in another centre-back, because we just want to keep collecting wonder kids, because when you're a club the size of Preston, you never know when they're going to leave. So you need to have that continuity in there. If de Klerk moves on, we need to know we've got the next guy stepping through. And that's true in all positions. Reyes, Rafa, Blanco, all through the team. You kind of need the next one ready to go if you get the big offer from the big club for the main one. But we've got our season review now, so let's just go through this as well. Signing of the season goes to Russell Ross. I'm not going to argue with that. A £12.5 million signing from Wigan. He'd never played in the Premier League. Comes straight in with 22 goal contributions and a 7.11 average rating. That will do nicely, boys and girls. But we had a lot of good quality signings last summer. Obviously, we've talked about de Klerk. Sartore's been very good as well. And I can't describe Blanco, of course, Rafa. It was a great summer of transfers. If we can have another summer as good as the last one, we are setting ourselves up very nicely for the long term of this football club. We were supposed to avoid relegation. We finished 12th. That's a good season. We got to the FA Cup final. That's a good season. We don't worry about the Moose Cup. We don't really worry about moments to remember. And finances, contrary to popular belief, I'm managing finances quite well. We've actually had a boost to our club reputation. We've gone from 3-star to 3.5 star. All our financial stuff is up. Broadcast revenue, what a difference the Premier League makes. But competition prize money from that cup run is up as well, which is that one, not that one. £20 million of competition prize money. That's also Premier League contribution as well. But money is flowing in very nicely. We just need to avoid second season syndrome. This was our team of the year. Blanco in goal. A back four of Ballo-Touré, Burns, de Klerk, Walters, Carrasco at the base of the midfield, White and Longstaff ahead of him. Definitely need an attacking midfield. I can't have those three as my central midfielders. Sartori on the left, Ross on the right, Brobby up front. That suggests we need a striker, because if Brobby's getting ahead of Ida, that's a worry. And then awards-wise, Adam Ida does win Fans Player of the Year again. They love that boy. Young Player of the Year goes to Ross, also signing of the season. Top scorer was Ida with 17. Most assists, Ross with 14. Ross also getting most man of the matches and the highest average rating. It's fair to say Russell Ross was a good signing and also broke the club record for assists in a season at 14, and they were just last season's things. So let's jump onto the Dynamic Manager timeline. Now we've jumped off of it again, and we've lost some social media followers. How have we done that? Who have we offended? Have we been cancelled this year? And this is one of those objectives that you rarely see in Football Manager, but makes me rub my hands together with glee. An actual objective is spend the original transfer budget. So if we were only to spend £20 million of our £50 million this summer, they're going to consider that failing that objective. They want us to go out and spend £50 million this summer and just throw some cash around, which is lovely to see. Work within the wage budget, spend 50 million, and then attempt to avoid relegation again when we finish 12th. It all seems very doable if we can avoid second season syndrome. Let's tell the boys we're going to avoid relegation. They're happy about that. And anything else we need to know about? Team report stuff? Not really. Training camp. We are going to go to, let's go to the Netherlands and hang out in the Netherlands for a bit. Nobody wants Whiteman or Small. We'll worry about that a little bit later in the summer. I'm sure they will both end up departing unless we're paying them too much money. And that is where we are for now. There might be contract renewals that affect these numbers a little bit before you next see them, but I'm kind of inclined at this point. Obviously, we'll keep looking for wonder kids, keep checking the scout reports, but my priority number one for the summer is to pin de Klerk down, which means we need to wait for the Euros to end. 10th of July, he's back from the Euros. Will he still be a Preston player then? I'm not sure. So it is now the 9th of June, and we have our first three signings in. These were all the previously arranged ones. So the first couple, a little bit iffy. These are the ones that were came in the email that comes earlier in the year telling you players are being released by other Premier League clubs. The youngsters, so Galliano, not so great. Steve Doyle, I mean, they're both 4-star potential. Neither of them are ever going to get near our team. We might sell them on for a profit at some point. But the one we're all interested in, Americo George Frangolo, comes in with 3 stars of current ability, 4.5-star potential, and is right in the mix as one of our potential starting defenders. So that is a good thing. Let's get them all on language courses, or the ones that need it on language courses. Don't really know why they weren't sent to the language courses the moment the signings were arranged. I'm sure you used to be able to do that in previous Football Managers, but I don't remember it being an option on this one. But give them their squad numbers as well. And it looks like we're actually getting some offers in for some of our players as well. So youngster Sol Latham has left to go to Blackburn. Ben Whiteman, he can just go anywhere he wants to. We're not going to negotiate on price. He was our captain until very recently. Leicester are trying to steal one of our scouts. If he wants to go, he can. Likewise, the guy Tottenham are trying to steal. We're not afraid of clubs stealing our scouts. If our scouts leave, we'll replace them with better ones. That's how it works. But with those transfers now going through, we go into the meat of the summer, a big budget to play with. Now we go and have some fun. Well, we've got 3 players identified that we want to bring in, but there are bidding wars going on for all of them. So I'm going to show you them now because I don't expect to sign any of them. Fernando Torrent is an attacking midfielder who will play in central midfield. I say will play. We're never going to get to play him because we're competing with Manchester United and Chelsea for his signature. He's currently playing in the 2nd tier in Spain. We've got Jim Watson, who's a Scottish attacking midfielder / striker. He's probably the best chance we've got of signing anybody. Leeds are also in for him. He's got 12 goals from 11 caps for Scotland so far. Is playing for Hibs in the Scottish Premiership at the moment. And then Jonathan Tamang, who does share a name with probably the best new gen player in last year's non-league legend, who we never got to sign. I'm not sure if lightning is going to strike twice. But he came up on my scout reports, and there's quite a few teams in for him. I don't think we're going to get him. Arsenal are in. There's other clubs. There's plenty more that are also interested as well. Chelsea, Manchester United. There's lots of big clubs. Spurs are there as well. And yeah, I don't think we've got much chance of getting him. But we'd quite like all 3 of them. I suspect we'll get one at most. Well, we have got one of the 3. The other 2 we could still get. Yeah, you could argue we don't need the other 2 because we got the guy who can play in both of the positions they can play in. Jim Watson is in and seems to be something of a bargain. £17 million, now in the 62 to 75 million pound range. That'll do nicely. We probably need to take a look at our striker situation because we probably don't need all of these strikers that we've got now. Watson comes in as our best striker, equal with Reyes, 2 20-year-old wonder kids. Ross can obviously play there, but really is going to be out on the wing. I think we probably moved Brobby on initially, although Brobby has got the advantage of being able to play on the left wing, although there's no reason why Watson couldn't learn to play there. He can play left midfield, for goodness sake, and attacking midfield. I don't think it's too much of a stretch to ask him to be an inside forward over there. So I think Watson can probably learn to fill that role. But I just think there's too many here now. I think we keep Sunjic because of his potential. We keep Ida because he's scored far more goals than Brobby. But Brobby, I think, is done. Have we got enough on the left-hand side without Brobby? He only scored 5 goals last year at a 6.79. Yeah, I think he's done. Let's see if we can get any interest in him. And Whiteman is leaving the club as well. Woodburn, has just left also. His deal has gone through. So we are getting a start on these transfers now. Watson in, and then Woodburn, Whiteman, both out of the club. Latham had already left slightly earlier in the summer as well. There's still a bunch of money left, and we are in for another young player. David Braddock is a 19-year-old English under-18 international who's currently at Salford, on loan from Albacete in La Liga 2. I don't know how he's ended up there because he's English. Born in Grimsby, ended up playing in... I don't know. No idea. But if we can pick him up on the cheap, I think he's just another good young player for us to have knocking about the place. Well, we didn't get Fernando Torrent. He has gone to Chelsea, but we did get Jonathan Tamang. He is in on a nice long contract, a 4-year contract, 2.5 stars of current ability, so not coming into play straight away, but with that 5 stars of potential, definitely a good up-and-coming English striker to have knocking around the place. If he becomes half the player he did in last year's non-league legend as well, he's going to be sensational for us. And just it's nice to beat a lot of the bigger clubs to a young up-and-coming English talent. We also got David Braddock, who is 2.5 stars, current ability, 5-star potential as well. So 2 good young English players. It looks like without necessarily deliberately doing it, we're focusing on talented young British players this summer. Jim Watson is 20 years old and Scottish. Tamang, 19-year-old and English. Braddock, 19-year-old and English. And we've still got loads of money to play with for the rest of the summer. But the squad is starting to fill up in these areas where we needed to add new bodies. So Braddock comes into that midfield mix. And, I mean, he'll probably get game time. Not necessarily as a starter, but will get game time. Likewise, Tamang is going to be in the mix. He's going to get game time. I think we probably do need to move potentially Brobby and Ida on. I don't want a transfer list Adam Ida. But at the same time, with Watson, Reyes, arguably Tamang, all ahead of him, and Sunjic with much higher potential behind him, I don't think that we need Brobby or Ida earning £130,000 a week between them being fringe players. Is that madness, getting rid of Ida? I'm not sure it is when you look at what we've got up top. Right, we have a new right back in. It's a position we needed to strengthen. I don't know that he's necessarily going to be any better than we've already got there. Calvin Ramsey had been at QPR, where he played most of the season for them last year. QPR now relegated, so we picked him up on his relegation release clause for £7.75 million. And he'll just slot in to be one of the players who can play there, along with Raul Walters and Simon Darlington. It's not the most inspiring transfer I've ever made, but he was cheap. He was a bit of a bargain. We've also sold one of our youngsters, Joshua Kwarteng, who came in on a free transfer from Manchester City a couple of seasons ago. We loaned him out to Port Vale and then Ross County, and Brighton have just come in and given us £5 million for him. He's not a player we were ever likely to use, so it's just a free £5 million as far as I'm concerned. So we still have some nice spensies. We are still working on other incoming transfers. We've identified a 19-year-old Serbian defender who we're looking to bring in for a couple of £1 million, but Atletico Madrid also want him. And we've also got this guy from Porto who's hopefully going to sign to be that more attacking central midfielder that we were looking for. And Pascozzi is on his way out of the club. He asked for a new contract. I wasn't planning on selling him until we knew the De Klerk situation, but he asked for a new contract. He wanted stupid money for a player we're on the verge of selling anyway. So we're just taking a bit of a gamble. We're going to look to sell him on at a massive profit, I might add. These are £10 million plus offers. If De Klerk goes, we might have a slight problem, but only a slight one. And the slight problem goes away if Jovic comes in, which fingers crossed he will. Either way, we can just replace Pascozzi if De Klerk goes. But it's such a big if that I think we just cash in now rather than giving him a new contract and then not being able to sell him when De Klerk stays. Maybe he stays. Right, we've made it through to the 1st of July. A couple more transfers have gone through. Mikey O'Neill, who was part of the promotion, or not, I don't think he was part of the promotion squad. We definitely used him in that first season. He's gone to Wigan on a free transfer. We're paying them back for Russell Ross. What a bargain. And Pascozzi's gone to Levante for £11.5 million. Lovely piece of transfer business. Signed him for next to nothing. Sold him for big money when he was ready to ask for more. And we have a replacement in for him. Alex Scott has confirmed his permanent transfer from Manchester United, so he is a permanent Preston player. But this is your Pascozzi replacement. Bosko Jovic, just like Pascozzi, a centre-back who can also play right-back. The bin men are going past. That's not been part of the channel for years, but the bin men have gone past. They're very excited at Bosko Jovic turning up. 3-star current ability, 4-star potential, Serbian international already at 19 years old. So he just fits the Pascozzi role, does exactly what he was able to do. And then Erickson Moreno is an 18-year-old Portuguese under-21 international, central midfielder or attacking midfielder. Exactly what we wanted. We wanted one more of these in as an attacking midfield option. 2.5 stars of current ability, 5-star potential. He comes in from the Porto youth team. We are a little bit over wage budget at the moment, and we can't shuffle that around, but that's because there are other transfers still ongoing. We're trying to bring in a young right back from Brescia, who won't be ready for the first team yet, but you can never have too many 5-star potential players. And also this guy, Filip Stefanovic, who, I mean, at 25, he's a bit old for this project, but I think he'd just be really useful cover on both sides. Comes in from Schalke as well, so I can wear some of my Schalke gear that I bought last year to celebrate his signing, thus getting value for money there. If we go back and have a little look at the squad depth as it stands currently, I don't know why Jacob Stolazic has appeared on there. That's weird. That's very weird because he's not there. Okay. We did try and sign him last summer. That's weird though. So ignoring him, we've got Josh Clark as the backup at left back. Ballatore and Oscar. Ramsey really is in as a right back, where at right back we've got Ramsey and Walters. Simon Darlington is now homegrown at club, so I think we're going to send him out on loan, try and find him a championship club to go and play a full season with this coming year. At centre-back, we've got De Klerk, Valenti, Burns. The new boy is in as well, the two new boys. Valenti, by the way, won several awards at the end of last season. Italian Serie B Young Player of the Year and Best Player of the Season in the Italian second tier, and got into Bari's seasonal best 11, all despite leaving for us in January. He left quite the impression on Italian football, it seems. At the base of the midfield, we've got White and then other players who can cover there. Central midfield, interesting to see David Braddock considered in the top 3. For that kind of wage, to have that kind of value, I think we've picked up a real bargain there, who could end up being awesome. But as the attacking options, Rafa, Braddock, plus the new guy from Porto. As the box-to-box midfielder, you've got White, Scott, Longstaff. Scott and Longstaff can also cover at DM if need be. Frangolo's obviously also a defender. And then on the left wing, you've got Sartore. It says Brobby and Ida. I mean, they might end up getting most of their game time out there, to be honest. But we've got this new guy coming in. That's the wrong button. We've got the new guy coming in as well who can cover on both wings. On the right-hand side, we've got Russell Ross, and that's about it. If we get this new guy in, we probably get rid of Chong, send Sunjic out on loan. And then, of course, I don't know why it's going back there. Up front, we already know we've got Watson, Reyes, Tamang, plus you've still got Brobby and Ida up there as well. The squad is very much taking shape. If we get this winger in, it's taking shape even more. There you go. Suwan Rat, who's probably not going to make it, is on his way out on loan to get some game time. He's one of, there's a few players now who it's becoming clear we've grown too quickly for some of these players to keep up with us. And he's definitely one of them. We'll take these guys in on trial, see if any of these are still good enough to play. The likes of Varane, Lukaku, Ward-Prowse. Some of them might be an interesting player to have knocking around the place. Dane Scarlett's an interesting one to see available on a free transfer, because he's usually good value for a few goals in Football Manager, but I don't think we need a new striker at the moment. But what we do need is to start trimming some of these players out of the squad. Now we've brought the new signings in. Thierry Small is still here. We're trying to get rid of Thierry Small, so let's offer him out again. I think Sean Longstaff can probably go now. We've brought in a number of new central midfielders. Adam Ida, I am loath to transfer list because of everything he's done for us, but I think he probably isn't good enough anymore. Chong is getting the chop as well, as is Brobby. We keep Harvey White. I'm going to add transfer list Adam Ida, and it's going to hurt me. He's just on too much money. Ida can go as well. Let's see if we can get these 5 out of the club to start to trim things down a little bit. And there's an offer for Thierry Small. Lovely stuff. And an offer, and lots of offers for Chong, in fact, where most of them want us to make a wage contribution, which we don't really want to do. So I think we probably look to send him to one of these that aren't going to ask for the wage contribution. Who does he want to go to? He wants to speak to, I mean, he just wants to leave. There's lots he wants to speak to. And we've got an offer for Brobby as well, which, I mean, I'll just let him go for anything. You know what? Same with Chong. I don't need to be maximising how much I'm getting for these players. They've served us well, but now we want rid of them. So I don't need to maximise the amount of money we're getting for them. The incoming players, our squad is just about complete. It's not like we're trying to scratch together money to be able to sign a certain player. So I think we probably just let them speak to as many clubs as we can in the hope that they agree to sign for one of them. I don't know that we're going to be bringing in any of these guys, to be honest. All the really good ones turned us down, and these ones are just squad players. Old squad players. Dane Scarlett would be the one interesting one if we hadn't already signed as many strikers as we have, but he'd be well down the pecking order if we... Yeah, I mean, that reckons he'd be just ahead of Tamang, but why would we want to bring someone in to go ahead of Tamang? Doesn't make any sense. If he was going to be better than everyone, then yeah, we bring Dane Scarlett in, but I think we just let those trialists hang out for a week and then send them on their merry way. Well, this seems like another good piece of business to me. Chong has gone to Fenerbahce for £11 million, a player we brought in on a free transfer 2 years ago and had very much become a fringe player. 17 starts last season, but we've signed new players to cover his positions. Finley Burns now wants a new contract. He's already on 59 grand a week. We might be sticking another defender on the transfer list here, which is a problem because we've just tried to give a new contract to de Klerk and he's still not interested despite Belgium being out of the Euros. But if he actually thinks he's worth more than 59 grand a week, he's lost his mind. Oh, there you go. We've calmed him down. Good, because that would have been ridiculous. This whole keeping de Klerk at the club thing looks like it's going to become more and more challenging. He's won best young player at the Euros, 5 appearances, 2 goals for Belgium. He's made it into the Dream 11 despite Belgium being knocked out in the quarterfinal, I think it was. He's quite good. He really is quite good. And let's try again to get some contract talks up and running. No longer wishes to renew his contract. Oh, dear. Never mind, eh? Oh, we've got this guy. That's handy. Let's get him in. That's a scout. We won't worry about him. But we can meet our new winger, who's going to be our Chong replacement, able to cover on both wings. Let's just welcome him in, get him into the squad, get some squad numbers handed out and squad registration stuff. And there is Filip Stefanovic, who is a right footer who can play on the left or the right. Not going to be anything spectacular, just a useful squad player for us. 3-star current ability, 3.5-star potential. As good as Sartori on the left, and then on the right-hand side should provide good cover for Ross as well. So it's a position we needed squad depth, and that's some squad depth that's now in. Let's just check how things look over here on the squad depth screen now. You can see he now appears on there exactly where he's supposed to appear, and this squad really is starting to take shape now. And we've also sold Thierry Small, if I can actually get there and show you. Thierry Small has gone to Mainz for £2.3 million. Another piece of transfer business profit. Lovely old stuff. We've actually only done a net spend of 10 million so far this summer, although that doesn't take into account the 30 or so million we spent officially in last season. So bottom line, we've still not spent 50 million, which is what we were told to spend. We've got a little bit left and still loads of money in the bank. So still room for 1 or 2 more maybe, but I'm pretty happy with this squad as is. Oh, boys and girls, this is arguably our biggest, most important signing of the summer. De Klerk has signed a long-term contract with an £80 million release clause rather than the £20 million release clause he had previously. He can't become homegrown at club, which I thought he could. He's been here... Oh, he's only been here a year. In my head, he'd been here 2 years. But importantly, look at what it does to his value. His value was previously capped at that £22 million that his release clause was at. We have had to promise him the world to get him to sign this contract. So in addition to a minimum fee release clause for Champions League clubs, there's also a relegation release clause, and numerous other promises as well. And we've had to promise him we'll improve our coaching team, which we are looking to do. I've got the board to agree to a couple more coaches, so fingers crossed we bring them in. We tick that off. But we've also had to promise him that by the end of this season, we'll be an established mid-table team. So we have to finish mid-table this year. And then by the end of next season, we need to qualify for Europe. So we've got 2 years to qualify for Europe. Otherwise, he's going to be unhappy. I've never had to promise a player quite as much as I've had to promise de Klerk. But, I mean, he's going to be a world superstar. What a start to his international career. We need to try and keep him at Preston for as long as possible. And there is a little bit more transfer news as well. We've loaned out some of our youngsters, Daniel Jones, who came in a couple of years ago and then broke his leg, unfortunately. But he's managed to go out on loan to Sheffield Wednesday in League One after a year out at Bromley last year. Dominic Sunjic, we've given up the idea of him being homegrown at club. 2-star current ability, really needs game time now. He'll still become homegrown in England with this year on loan at Reading. I think it's only fair. We took Tamang off Reading. We've sent them a youngster to replace him for the year, and hopefully he'll bang the goals in for Reading in League One. And Simon Darlington has gone out on loan to Sheffield United to hopefully get a full season playing at right back in the Championship. Brobby went to Olympiacos as well for £2.7 million. And off the back of all of that, we went and signed another youngster, David Antas, can play attacking midfield or left midfield or even right wing as well. He's a 20-year-old Spanish player with 3 stars of current ability, 4.5-star potential. Was at Alaves last year. Another one that we've plucked out the second tier of Spanish football, and another body that we've now got to play in these attacking areas, wide areas where we needed players there. Antas is probably the best one we've got now on the left, with Sartore and Stevanovic both able to play there. And then on the right, we've got Ross and Stevanovic. And that whole attacking area is looking a lot stronger now as a result of that transfer. One more player we're trying to bring in is Juan, who is a 21-year-old, Spanish again. Of course, they're all Spanish. Do I look Spanish to you? My squad certainly does at this point. He's another one from the second tier of Spanish football. This is what happens when you have a Spanish scout. He's a natural deep-lying playmaker to sit at the base of our midfield. You know I like this kind of player, and he's got lots of potential, and we're going to try and bring him in as well, and he will then be the final piece of the puzzle because our money will be gone. The board, by the way, are delighted with my eagerness to spend the transfer budget as agreed. You're welcome. I really feel at home at this football club. It's like they're rewarding me for doing the things I always want to do anyway. It's amazing. They're improving our youth facilities and our training facilities as well. What a football club this is. This, genuinely, I've never felt this positive about a second club in non-league to legend ever. I genuinely feel like we could stay here long term. Cue an offer from some massive club. But at the moment, I am loving life at Preston and very excited to see what this squad that we've put together can achieve. The media think we're going to get relegated. We'll finish in mid-table or we lose to Clerk. It's non-negotiable. And that brings us to the end of the summer. We're about to play our first game in the new season, so that'll be tomorrow's video. We did bring Juan in the end. There he is, arriving for £6 million and looking pretty decent as an option for us at the base of the midfield. We haven't done any more outgoing transfers. What we have been doing is trying to appease de Klerk when it comes to staff. So if we have a look at staff changes that have been going on, you can see that we brought in 3 new members of staff. Steve Stone, who looks pretty good. Eric Ramsey, who looks pretty good. Mark Hughes, not that one, looks pretty good. And we've got rid of these 2. A goalkeeping coach, because who needs goalkeeping coaches? And this guy who isn't disastrous, but wasn't quite as good as the ones that we've brought in. So I've got rid of everybody who was here before me now. All the former coaches that I didn't bring in are now gone. He's still not happy. He's pleased that we're making improvements for the coaching team, but he doesn't think we're done yet. We've got Benny McCarthy waiting for a work permit. I don't see how we fit him in. The one obvious thing we could do, I don't know if we can. Michael Gash has to stick around. If I had to choose between Gash and de Klerk, I know what I'm choosing. But that is the end of the summer. We've spent all our money. We're still nicely within the wage budget. There's no transfer budget left realistically, and this is what our squad depth looks like. I don't know why Stolazic is on there again. Let's get rid of him. But a good goalkeeper and a couple of half decent backups. We won't use Ramsey there or Walters there. Valenti, I guess, could play out there if he had to. We're not going to use de Klerk at right back. I didn't realise you could do this on this screen. Andy Lyons, we never signed. Oscar could potentially play there. And then you've got those guys at the back there. Decent options at defensive midfield with Juan now in. Rafa, Scott and Braddock to play there. Harvey, Scott and Juan, although Juan probably won't play that far forward. It will likely be Longstaff to play in there, although Longstaff is available for transfer if anyone wants him. On this side, we've got decent options on the left and the right, although Scott won't play right wing. And then up front, Watson, Reyes, Tamang and Adam Ida is still here, although he's not in the top 3 in any position. This is likely to be the team for the first day of the season. I think that's a pretty good side. The media, I haven't checked in on them lately. The media think we might just avoid relegation. 16th place is the prediction. 4 teams not as good as us. Got to consider that a good thing. I would call that another very successful summer. That, not the other one, this one. Excellent. If you have enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.